You there?
Last one, last one.
You can do it.
Take
I believe
take
in you.
take three. This is the first time that I actually like fumble. I usually just
It's
like power
okay.
through.
I make you nervous. It's
I
fine.
don't. Yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fun Street Podcast, where we talk with image makers and light shapers about the artistry and process of creativity. Today, we have one of my closest friends. They are a Brooklyn based performer, producer, nightlife personality. She is also a model, burlesque performer, costume, wardrobe, maestro. She is also, there's so many slashes to this person that I will just have to turn over the mic to her and let her describe or let them describe themselves. So please welcome Elise Walsh. Yeah.
Ah, wah, 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 wah. Hey,
So,
Jono.
hello, Elise. Now, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Oh, well, I run a couple of small businesses myself as a costumer, as a drag producer and performer, doing burlesque and writing cabarets, performing in rock operas, at the Slideshow by the Seashore at Coney Island. I do lots of different things. I work for a couple different theaters, doing stitching and doing wardrobe. But right now, I'm a whole lot of unemployed, like lots of other people in New York City. So
That
I'm
is
on
true.
quarantine.
And while we are in the topic of COVID-19 coronavirus, let's just get that out of the way so we can proceed with the conversation of more of the
Yeah.
craft and artistry. How are you dealing with the quarantine, the shutdown? How are you feeling about all of this?
Well, I have a couple of choice feelings about it. I really think that even though, as a person who works in entertainment and in live entertainment and live events, so the reason why my job has disappeared, of all the different jobs that I have, all of it's gone for the next 2 months at the very least, is because we rely on having access to the outside world and to each other to be able to create parties and create events and
Mhm.
everything. So huge economic fuckery, like big time fuckery. A lot of people are fucked over, even not outside of the entertainment industry as well. So many different industries are hurting by this. But as an immunocompromised person, as a disabled person with autoimmune, I'm really fucking scared of just getting the disease and dying. So I'm kind of at this point. So I went to the grocery store for a last ditch effort because I had to clear out my stuff at Coney and go pick up all the makeup and all the other shit that I'd left there before the show got canceled, and I bought like a whole cake
Mhm.
because
Oh,
my birthday
good.
is coming up, and
Yeah.
the virus canceled my birthday, so I decided that sheet caking would be a good way to distract myself. And my partner and I did mushrooms, and I had never done mushrooms
See,
before, so that was an
we're all dealing in our own
experience.
ways.
That's a quarantine first,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, but
doing
like
great,
how
doing great.
I it's unprecedented. I don't think anybody has anticipated an event where, people are mostly okay, but they just cannot go out. So,
Yeah, well, we can't because the risk of infecting and carrying is too great at this point.
yeah. And
Yeah.
how has it been inside? How's the quarantine? How are you entertaining yourselves while you are just in your apartment or in your immediate neighborhood?
Right. So the funny part is I've actually been isolating for weeks before the quarantine started because I got two crazy chest infections back to
Mm.
back. So, because I was preparing for this huge rock opera that was going to be for a whole month, I was on strict, everyone stay the fuck away from me. My partner slept in a different room for 5 days
Oh
while I had
no.
this fever, and that was great because she didn't get what I got, and she was sick too. So we both got better, and then since then we've been fine. Um, so we've been playing a lot of Mario Kart. We've been going
Okay.
through a movie list, things that we haven't been able to check off, like um, we finally watched a few horror movies. We finally watched Frozen 2
See,
today, which was actually really good.
see?
It's
There
surprisingly good. I was like, okay, all right, very adult content. I see you, Disney. But like, yeah, we did shrooms, and that was supposed to be my 30th birthday present, and it came early
I was
because we were
slightly early.
a bit sad. So we had a very interesting time, and I would love to talk more about that at some point to really thoroughly describe that experience. And what else? I did some sewing. I had actually made a sparkly face mask for one of the
Oh,
crew members, the
appropriate.
puppeteer who was, yeah, because she'd gotten the flu. So I was like,
Mm.
oh, I'll make you a mask. And because I haven't seen her now, I've now rhinestoned it. So it's sparkly, just
We're
waiting to be born, ironically or not,
yeah.
depending on when it actually gets to her.
We're gonna discuss more of the economics of being an artist or like a hustler in this day and age, because it's, we've talked about this a lot of times, but it's always funny how people identify as one profession, like, hey, I'm a model, I'm an actress, I'm a this and
Yeah.
that, but in actuality people have like 16 different jobs just to survive, particularly in a city in New York. But like, staying on topic of being quarantined or being in a lockdown in a place like New York, like how what was the wake up call? How long do you think you could hang on doing like diminished income until you need your multiple jobs to start popping back again?
Well, the financial loss that I've already suffered because of canceled work that was promised and was confirmed for this month, I'm already at about $900 of lost income, which is easily another month's worth of
Mm.
rent. So within the next month, some kind of work has to come back,
Hmm.
or like, the government has to step in and give a stimulus, which I think is the intermittent,
Yeah.
aid for this because so many people are already fucked because we live paycheck to paycheck where we are one health crisis away from being homeless,
That's true. I mean,
which is intense.
if Corona's not going to do you in, it's probably bankruptcy. So that's kind of the overall
Yeah.
sentiment, not just during this,
Starvation.
yeah, not just this quarantine
Right.
period, but like for the most part, people, they don't die of disease; they die of not being able to take care of themselves. But um,
Absolutely.
well, I'm glad, it's in the early stages of the lockdown. We're all trying to entertain ourselves. I'm glad you're doing okay and still, entertained with Mario Kart and some shrooms.
We're
Yeah.
trying.
But
Yeah.
I brought you here because, part of the Fun Street podcast is talking to, cool people that does cool things. But for the most part, people don't see the hustle. People don't see how hard it is to maintain
Yeah.
a passion. So let's start with that first. You
Okay.
have so many slashes, both in sexual orientation and identification, but also in professions. What are your main passions?
Passions or professions because there is overlap. But
Yeah, let's do however you would want to interpret it.
let me close this. So in terms of passions, my passions is creating art. So my professions being a costume designer and creator and working in the theater, either on stage or off stage, are also they're my passions and my profession. So
Mhm.
I'm very lucky that I can do what I love for a living. And then there's production management, which comes into things that I am good at, which can be stressful, but I love like management. I love working with people and creating art and immersive events and making that stuff work. Like a well-oiled machine is very satisfying in a very real and tangible way.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
You sing, you photograph, craft, you perform, you dance. You those are,
Producing too.
yeah. So if like gun to your head, you can only keep one. What would you kind of specialize in, or what is the one thing that you can't live without? Understanding that, you know, living without, taking away part of your art is probably losing like a limb.
If I could only pick one of them, um I want to still be able to use my hands to make stuff. That's what I'm most connected to right now because I know that's a shelf life thing. As a person with
Mhm.
arthritis, I'm not going to be able to make stuff with my hands forever.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to harness the use of that now and really make some cool shit while I can.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for you talked about getting stuff from Coney recently. Let's talk about a
Yeah.
little bit about that because part of your bios you've done a one person show. You've done stage. You produced it.
Hmm.
But this is something that is, a lot more fresh. Let's talk about that. How you got into being able to be in a production in Coney Island.
Yeah, so let's talk about Bloody Brains in a Jukebox. It's a new sci-fi rock opera written by the mayor of Coney Island, Dick Sigan,
Mhm.
who's a Yale drama alum, and music written by Nikos Briscoe, also known as Pink Velvet Witch, who we've collaborated before. They actually were the person who put me on the bill to help me create the cabaret, the one person show. So they're very much been involved in a lot of collaborative projects. They've worked together a lot in the last few years on music stuff. But I had no idea when I had gone to audition that Nikos had
Oh,
written the music for it. I was totally surprised by that. I just knew they were looking for a Jane Mansfield lookalike. And I was like, oh, I can get a blonde wig and push my boobs together and do a little thing and sing some Led Zeppelin. And I got the part. So
so you
first
auditioned with
time
Led
doing,
Zeppelin.
sorry.
You auditioned with Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, wearing
Dope.
a leopard print jumpsuit, Jane Mansfield's a huge inspiration for rock and punk and a lot of she was a sex bomb.
No, yeah,
But
and
she's also really a brainy lady. So she was really cool. It was really cool to be able to dive into researching her as a person to get into character a little bit. But the character was very fluid and different from Jane as a
mhm.
person as well, because the idea is that we've had our brains swapped out and where they're trying to find the cure for cancer. They're like brain surgeons who were in a crash and they had their brains swapped out. It's kind of like the man with two brains and Rocky Horror Picture Show had a weird baby set between California and Nevada.
And it's too bad the production is postponed for now.
Yeah.
But we are hoping that we're going to be able to see that.
Yeah, we have plans to bring it back for sure. Actually, I have this wig actually I had used for the John Waters themed drag show I was a part of a few years ago at Coney during the Burlesque at the Beach series.
Oh, for
But it
the
was used as a really cool prop in the show as well. But
yeah, for the
we have
audio
a
listeners,
tiny
if
little
you
team.
can't you can't see, but she's now donning a really tall,
Blonde
curly blonde
beehive.
wig with
But
bejeweled blonde
I
wig.
really don't want to ruin the surprise of what this wig does because it's actually a prop. Like it's a
Okay.
magic prop.
Well, they'll have to come back
You
and
have
see
to
the
come and
actual
see the
production
show.
when it does happen in Coney Island again.
Yeah,
That's
maybe we'll see what happens. We're gonna maybe there was talks of maybe filming it
mhm,
and doing a film kind of production of it, kind of because it is kind of like a John Waters film in
mhm.
that way. I think it would translate very well to film as like a short feature, well, full feature because it's 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. First time back in theater after 10 years, and it's 2.5 hours all sung through. I was like, I'm gonna die. What the fuck have I gotten myself into? As
And
a lead character, I have like the most lines out of everybody, probably cumulatively, and it was just like so much for my brain to handle.
And speaking of that, speaking of a 2.5 hour production, speaking of doing a lead role, like what are the sort of things that you do to prepare for the different art things that you do on a day-to-day basis? I mean, you sing, you dance, you create.
Yeah,
A lot of those require not just talent and skill, but preparation and practice. So
for
walk the
sure.
people through how you continuously improved your craft in a day in and day out basis.
Having a structure and having a schedule really helps. Like even when I was still working at XIV doing costumes with them, I was in the rehearsal process for the rock opera. So packing and planning and prepping was my
Mhm.
ultimate best friend because if I didn't bring my tea mug with me and an extra tea bag so I could boil water, so I could drink tea on the way to rehearsal, so I'm already warmed up, so I can get there, singing for 3 hours, and then go home, go to sleep, get rinse,
Mhm.
repeat, meal prepping and snack prepping, and making sure my script's always in my backpack, making sure I always have a water bottle, always have extra tea bags, and sinus stuff and all of those things.
Yeah.
So being like making sure I have a go bag at all
Mhm.
times with an extra grocery bag in case I decide to get groceries on the way home at like midnight because ShopRite's open. Like,
And that's something that
yeah,
a lot of people miss is because Yeah, you do rehearsals, you sing, you vocalize, but having like a performance talent is almost like a 24-hour job because you have to hydrate, you have to have tea, you have to
Yeah.
clear your nasal passages, you can't drink these, you can't smoke that. So,
And drink
um,
coffee.
oh, you can't drink coffee?
You're not supposed to. Well, I mean, it's not like you can't drink coffee. You can, but I also love the lozenges and stuff too.
Yeah.
You can drink coffee, but it's such a diuretic and dries you out so much. It dehydrates you a lot, especially also with lactose and dairy products can coat your throat and give you a lot of phlegm. And phlegm is like not a fun thing to have if you're trying to sing because it gets stuck in the way. When you're in the middle of a high note, it's like, "Ah, la, 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 la," you know what I mean? Like it's like a toad in the hole.
And before we move on to your other skills and passions, on the subject of performance and performances, you know, tell me a little bit about your favorite performances to date.
Performances that I have done or have seen.
Let's do with what you've done, what you've been part of, and what you've
Mm,
contributed to.
I had so much fun performing at the Jersey City Pride Festival last year in the Pride season. That was a really fun day. I met a lot of people and little baby gays. And it always warms my heart meeting the little baby gays. And they're like, "Oh my God, I've never met a drag queen before." And I'm like, "Hello, it's me, a drag queen."
Tell us about the
You know?
performance. What was it to? What was the song? What was
It
the
was I
feel?
did 2 different numbers. It was at the Stonewall Alley, which was, set up as a new section of the Jersey City Pride festivities this year. So it was like a whole, like, alleyway with a whole stage and situation. We had a nice, nice crowd. It was a nice warm afternoon. Lillian Bustle was emceeing, and, I did a number, which is a mix I'd made, which has Conga by Gloria Estefan, and it goes after Rhythm of the Night from the Moulin Rouge soundtrack.
Mm.
So it's super fun, high energy, and I've got like a gold sequin flip sequin and fringed leotard and a big duster cape that I like throw off and lots of shimmying and
And
whatnot. There are lots of photos of me making ridiculous faces in this particular performance, so I really appreciate the reactions of the people in the audience as well as the rubber face.
And for those who uninitiated, what goes into a drag show? Because there are a lot of different versions. There, like you can perform a lot of different types. But what
Yeah,
are if somebody were to come to a drag show for the first time, what
what
would
can
they
they
want to
expect?
see, and what should they expect?
Right. So a drag show can either exist of a whole host of different performers, or it can just be one performer doing a lot of different numbers and games with the audience and interacting with the audience. Kind of depends on where it is. Sometimes with like a brunch show, it'll be like one or two performers. Sometimes at a bar show, it's like up to five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 performers. There's going to be dancing and kicking and twirling and maybe death dropping, depending on the person. It's going to be live singing. There's going to be lip syncing. There's going to be games where you can pretend that you can lip sync, or you can try and take your clothes off if you really want to in public, and that's your prerogative.
Mhm.
There's going to be, games and free shots and maybe pizza if you're if you're giving away free pizza at your shows. A lot of times there's a raffle because drag queens love to make extra money any way they can, and they have lots of free stuff that they get from other people. And yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah, that is at the heart of drag itself is fun. But what makes drag in your words?
What makes drag? A really tight performance, something that's funny or engaging or can tell a story or can make you feel an emotion. Like if you can come in there with no preset, expectations of what's going to happen and leave feeling something, I think that's a job well done by a performer or a host to keep you engaged and make you feel
Yeah,
connected to something in real time because it's live.
yeah. You
That's the special thing about it too.
you get to be entertained. You get to enjoy. You get to be in glamour. And in
An
and be
escape.
and escape. That is I think drag.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing. So we'll move on more to because you're so talented. There's so many things that you do. But before we do the actual stuff, w- what are your main or who or what are your main inspirations?
My main inspirations. I'm inspired a lot by fashion and by history and by, pop culture, things that have, shaped me as a person, like the kind of humor that I grew up with might be something from like, a lot of silly sitcoms like Seinfeld or Golden Girls, or like it could be something fresh off the runway from Paris that I saw through going through YouTube at 2 o'clock in the morning. It could be, circus or sideshow, or, whatever art form I've been researching and diving into. I'm heavily influenced by like modern dance and sometimes ballet as well, but without the rigidity of their technique. So more so modern dance. And yeah, I'm inspired by a lot of other performers that I spend time with, that I see online. I'm inspired by so many different people all around the world. I can't like even put my finger on who my top three people are.
Yeah. And how
It's
do
a
you
vibe.
how do you absorb said inspirations? Are you like let's flip through magazines, let's just surf the web, or you go out and seek performances and see what inspires you there?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to see things live. I like to experience things. I'm a very immersive type of person. So as much as I can go out and see live shows, that's where I really feel the most active inspiration. But I do spend a lot of time surfing online and collecting kind of things that I'm interested in and textures that I like.
Mhm.
Um, I definitely think sometimes through media, like I'm inspired as well. There was like a new Next in Fashion TV show that had some really incredible
Yeah,
designers. Now I'm
I've
following
seen that.
them and, seeing where they go with their style too.
Oh, speaking of style and speaking of shows, I'm gonna switch over to a different screen for the audio listeners. I just want to show something that I ask all of my guests to provide me prior to engaging and talking and chatting about their art and artistries, and I ask them about their favorite photo. I try to be loose with it. I don't uh, say how many or by whom or of what, if it's them or it's something that they took. I just like, give me your favorite photo and let's chat about it. And this is what Elise sent me. Elise won't be able to see it because it's on my screen, but
I
all
can
the
just see
viewers
you
can.
pause on your screen.
Yeah. So if you do you have it in front of you? Can you see it, or do you remember it? But can you
I
describe
remember it.
describe the photo to the people that might not be viewing it on the YouTubes, like our podcast listeners?
Okay.
Describe your favorite photo.
Okay. So first of all, the photo is taken in my apartment, and I love my apartment so much because it's such a bizarre and pretty place. And in this particular section of my apartment, I have padded fabric peacock wallpaper.
Dope.
So I'm standing in front of a peacock facade, I guess, and wearing a pair of overalls and a stripy tank top. And my tattoos are out, and I'm having a giggle with
Yeah,
bright red lipstick on.
yeah. So the photo is by Andrew Koenig.
Yes,
Shout out to Andrew for taking that photo. Tell us
arc light
why.
photography, I think, is
Yeah,
his thing.
yeah. It is arclightphoto.com with a K. And tell the people why this is your favorite photo.
So I was in the process of taking some new headshots because of the production and not having any headshots as Elise. Because I haven't done acting in 10 years, so I was like, oh, why
Mhm.
would I need a headshot? Oh shit, now I need a headshot. And I really love this photo because it captures me in my most natural state, which is cracking a joke and like having a giggle,
Mhm.
and I really like the fact that it's very natural and
Yep.
unposed,
Yep.
and I'm in an outfit that I feel confident in, but still kind of is comfortable and still artistic or whatever. So
Yeah. I was reviewing the photo and you're right. It can go both ways. It can be a very, very natural posed big smile, or it's an actual candid snap in between conversation. So
yeah, we
those
were
are like
talking.
fun, interesting photos when you think about it, because you can't really put your finger onto it, or you can put your finger on both. It's like, yeah, candid or posed, really doesn't matter. It works.
Yeah.
It feels good. So shout out to Arc Like Photo Andrew Koenig for the photo. And like we mentioned earlier too, you are a photographer as well.
Hmm.
So what is your like photographic personality philosophy? What is your style and your brand?
So initially, I was an editorial photographer primarily, and I was working a lot with models and with beautiful gowns and designer brands, and shooting them in what at that time I was kind of like, yeah, I'm going to shoot this in like a construction yard or like living spaces I would find around the city. We would get kicked out by cops more often than not when I would be shooting on set, and shooting in like an Asian grocery store or like all these different spaces around Brisbane. And then once I got into burlesque, I became more of a boudoir photographer. So I was shooting in a lot of vintage indoor spaces and, creating period sets. And now that I live in a space that is very like kind of mid-century modern slash, coke and chic. So I shoot a lot of boudoir here. Like, I have a leopard print velour high heel chair prop and like another um soft velvet chair and the peacock wall and then this wall behind me and
Mm.
whatever else. So a mixture of different facades, a cheetah print couch. Oh my
and,
god.
and both as a photographer and a subject,
Hmm.
what would you say makes a great photo?
Composition is the thing that I'm most drawn to. What makes a pose dynamic? What fills the space with purpose? What uses the thirds in the most optimal way that pleases the eye immediately when you're like, fuck yeah, all of
Yeah,
this. Lighting is really important, but that plays into composition as well because you can move a person around lighting and you can move lighting around a person. So I think it's very much a teamwork makes the dream work situation there.
yeah,
And then subject as well, obviously, too.
yeah, and
Is what you're taking a picture of.
as a subject. So like this particular photo is candid and natural, the one that you sent us. But as a subject, what draws the best out of you as a model or a subject?
I think I want to have fun and I want to feel comfortable, but I want to be pushed as well to make those dynamic shapes, to breathe into them. It's difficult. It's physically demanding
Yep.
modeling, and
Yep.
I'm out as an arthritic person out for the whole next
Mm.
day, like creaky, like the fucking Tin Man that needs to be oiled.
Mm.
But if I'm not sore the next day, I don't feel like I've worked like hard enough at a photo shoot. So,
That's
and
something surprising that you brought up, because a lot of people like a lot of the previous conversations I've had on the pod is like, yeah, there's like a certain style or a certain feeling, but most often people forget about how physical modeling
yeah,
is, both
but
as
being a photographer is very physical too. It's heavy shit.
yeah. You need to work, like you need to work your core and your back and your quads,
Upper
because
body, yeah.
you're gonna have to hunker down or tiptoe depending on how tall your subject is to get that proper angle. And
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, we talk about the gear, the composition, the post processing, the lighting, but the actual act of being at that space and doing the capturing of the moment is also physically demanding.
Yeah.
And in that light, how like in your experience, how does a photographer bring the best out of you? Is it through coaching? Is it through just general atmosphere, or it's just timing? It's different for all peoples.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the photographer. Like I think sometimes it's very much atmosphere, like a good background music, good kind of, making sure that we're not talking too much because I can't stand still for more than a couple of seconds in certain poses that are quite
Mhm. That's true.
lots of discomfort going on there, but I want to get the shot. So a good mixture of kind of like some conversation, but some mostly focus and a good background kind of music or TV or whatever the fuck, and making sure it's a, nice organized and clean space to move through. If you're moving through different sets, have it set up and plan which ones you're going to do at what times, and getting changed and having enough time to kind of cool down in
Mm-hmm.
between
Yep.
outfits because it gets so sweaty, like,
Yep.
holding yourself under a softbox for
Yeah.
15 minutes in
Yeah.
one spot.
And then timing, like, timing the changes, the makeup, because you have to
Yeah,
change those
popping,
things.
touch
You
up,
know,
touch up.
yeah, people forget it's not just one thing, but again, sometimes you just like pop your iPhone and take a photo. Sometimes can beat a real set, but for the most part, you need a lot of preparation, a lot of things.
Yeah, those, Insta selfies.
Mm. And
They're pretty
so yeah, I wanted to bring this particular segment of the podcast to a close. So wanted to shout out Andrew Koenig again one more time. ArcLight Photo. We'll credit him in the description of the podcast as well as links at the bottom of the YouTube video so that you can check his work out and check out Elise's photo in the overalls with the big smile looking
big
away from the
goofy.
camera. Yeah, so let me just like make you bigger again into our screen. There you go. You are now full screen back again. We're towards the end of the pod, super tight 30, unlike the other pods that we do.
Oh my gosh, we get so off topic. It's so oh my god. I do have fun, but man, we waffle on. We
And
waffle
that's
hard.
that's just how,
We waffle with passion,
that's
we're
true.
passionate wafflers.
That's true. I mean, we,
Yeah,
we,
for
we
sure.
parade the dicks, and that's sometimes takes time.
If you've been to a second line in New Orleans, you know that parading takes time.
Heck,
So,
I love New
it's
Orleans. You can have a
I love
parade
it
for
too. I
whatever.
miss Selma so much.
You can request for your own damn parade whenever you damn want. So one
Yeah, it's
day
amazing.
before I die, I will have a parade just with me and like maybe four friends, just to like really
Yes,
walk
I
around
believe
and
in that for you.
but before we end, as you as a person with some a lot of skills and plugged into so many different uh, types of artistry. I mean, what would you say to the other people that about the struggle or about the successes of art in general that is not normally heard in in day-to-day life?
I think it's interesting that this pandemic comes at a really, really crazy time, but it shows a lot of different things about how broken our society is in the States and how much, when things turn to shit, people rely on art to
Mm,
survive. Note the amount of people that are sequestered in their own homes without lots of different entertainment, but they really are relying on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and every streaming device and service. Like the Met is streaming operas, and dance teachers around the world are doing free dance lessons on
yep.
Facebook Live
Hmm.
and on Vimeo and YouTube and wherever else, and Instagram. There's people that are doing makeup classes and tutorials for sewing, and the arts are banding together to sew masks
Yeah.
and robes for for the health system. And, I've been receiving email after email after email today of more resources and more ways that the arts community can really help in a crisis. And I really think that people don't think on a regular basis, if you have a 9 to 5 job that's
Mm,
maybe in an office or a corporate setting, you don't think about how much you actually utilize art on a day-to-day basis and
100%.
how much that we are the people that are often hit hardest in times of crisis because we are seen as a necessary, non-essential,
That's a non-essential. Yeah.
non-essential. Like it's like going to a salon or a bar, but people still rely on that shit
No.
more than they
Yeah.
realize.
Yeah. We were joking
So,
before.
help out people if you can. If you
That's
can
true.
afford to, give a little extra because, we're not going to be working until this is done with.
Yeah.
And we're going to entertain you in the meantime. We're still going to do it
Hundred
because we
percent.
believe it keeps people together and sane, but it costs a lot of money to look this cheap.
Yes. And we were joking before we started recording is like the amount of people going on Instagram Live or IGTV or streaming all their different crafts and passions and services is insane the past couple of days in both ways. It's one
Yeah.
because people need to be entertained, or if you're like even like what do you call these gyms and instructors and trainers, they do online training because one, yes, they need to still earn some money
Mhm.
through their for their service.
Donations or
Yeah,
otherwise, yeah.
yeah, they still need to sell their craft. But on the other end too, as a creator, like you still need to get your message out. You are cooped up in your apartment or in your house with
Mhm.
the same 4 or 5 people for a couple of days. People forget how important it is to do something else than what you've been doing. So they start, yeah, they're streaming their stuff. There's we were joking. There's so many boobs and butts on IGTV now, and I love it. I enjoy it because it kind of normalizes the idea of you have an audience out there, like there's somebody who's going to support your artistry or craft, no matter how unique it is. A friend of mine is doing speed knitting streams, which is kind of insane, but she
Speed
has
knitting?
speed knitting. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like it's just it's unique in a way that one, it never in 100 years would I think that there will be uh, a, a knitter on stream, but to realize that there's a giant audience out there, because
Bob
if you,
Ross,
yeah, yeah,
painting tiny little trees,
yeah,
happy little trees.
yeah, if you're just stuck in your apartment and you're done with your shows, you're done with cleaning, you're done with your work, you cannot go out.
Oh,
You
no.
want hobbies that kind of take a lot of time. So you knit and you read books and you do at home exercises,
Embroidery,
embroider. So yeah, it's and it's
crunches, oh
yeah,
my god.
yeah, it's good that you mentioned that you, the people that are hurt the most during these times of crisis are usually the ones that kind of give the most out of
Yeah, you're totally
themselves.
right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's a give and take, like, we want the best for the community, and we know that art really helps people in times of crisis.
yeah.
So we got this.
Yeah. So, well, great message to end on. I hope you are enjoying your quarantine couple of days and possibly a couple of more days. We will definitely be recording more on our other podcast. Shout out to Parade of Dicks. Um,
Wah, wah, wah.
and as we close, Elise Walsh,
Yeah.
this camera, that camera, the tell the people where they can find you and what they can do to support you.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the different social medias. I'm on Instagram at Allegra Drag. Allegra spelled like the antihistamine, drag like the queen. You can find me on Twitter at Allegra underscore spread. You can find me on Venmo and tip a bitch because I would love to be able to eat next week.
Tip.
I can drag my ass out back into the burbs where they are not social distancing at the grocery store, and I'm very upset about it. 6 to 10 feet, motherfuckers. Please, God. I don't want to get this and die. On Venmo at Allegra Spread in all one word. And I'm also on Instagram as Satine if you want to see costume things and quarantine floral arranging things and some more boobs and butts of me and my friends. It's Satine underscore Salume, SALLUMER. And yeah, that about wraps it up, I think.
Awesome. Well, we will have all of Elise's social medias as Allegra, as Satine, in the description below. We will highlight the fact that, you know what, Venmo is such a wonderful invention the past couple of years. PayPal as well.
Yeah.
Um, use it if you have a couple of extra bucks. If you're that type of person that is extremely lucky that nothing changes because of the lockdown, if you can work from home, much
Yeah.
like myself, you try to pick somebody. Doesn't have to be all of them. Pick someone you can help with. Maybe you can start with Allegra Spread at Venmo. And we'd like to thank the listener, for being with us today. This is the Fun Street Podcast. This is an irregularly scheduled podcast, so I will just drag my cool friends that does cool things, and we'll talk about all the cool stuff that they do
Cool
um,
stuff.
whenever they are available, and I'll just pop it on. So follow us at the social medias at Funshoot Podcast, both on Instagram and on Twitter. Visit the podcast website at www.jongclemente.com/funshoot. We're on YouTube. Watch all the episodes. Watch all of the recordings. If you don't want to hear our beautiful voices. If you want to see my ugly mug and Elise's pretty face, you can go to jongclemente.com/TV and you'll be directed to our YouTube channel, where I also have a milieu of burlesque performances, photography gear reviews, and just random musings of a bored person like myself. And if you want to send us a comment or suggestions or questions to Elise or any of our past guests, email us at funshootpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to participate on the show, you can actually leave a voicemail. So if you want to hear yourself and you could discuss, leave a voicemail at 347-934-9594. We'll read it on air at an appropriate time. If the voicemail is inappropriate, it will just be read and heard in the privacy of my own home, in my own apartment. Again, thank you very much.
The cat will hear it too.
Whiskey will hear it too. Again, thank you, listeners. Elise, thank you very much for your time and your energy. And to all of you guys, we love you.